I flew halfway across the country for my little sister's wedding. When I got there, my own mom stood in the doorway of the venue and told a total stranger I was nobody, just some cousin who wandered in. 3 days later, that same mom called me. Not to say sorry. She called because a $38,000 wedding bill had landed right back on her lap, and she needed to know why. What I told her on that phone call is the entire reason you're watching this video right now. Stay with me till the end because I want to know one thing from you. Would you have paid that bill or would you have hung up the phone? Welcome back to Silent Revenge. If you're new here, go ahead and hit subscribe because we tell real stories about people who finally stopped staying quiet. And while you're settling in, drop your city and what time it is where you're at right now. I read every single comment and honestly, it's my favorite part of doing this. Okay, let's go back to where it all started. My name is Claire. I'm 33 and up until 7 months ago, I was still doing something I'd done my whole adult life, paying for a seat at a table that was never actually set for me. I live in Denver and work as a marketing director at a mid-sized tech company. I grew up in a small Kentucky town I'll call Millbrook Hollow, the kind of place where everybody's business becomes everybody's business by Wednesday. My mom, Renata. My dad, Douglas. My younger sister, the bride Peyton, 27, 4 years out of college, still living 15 minutes from our parents. Last October, on a rainy Tuesday night, my phone lit up with a video call from Peyton. I picked up expecting nothing in particular, and instead got a scream of pure joy and a diamond ring shoved so close to the camera I couldn't see anything else. "I'm engaged," she squealed. Colton proposed at the vineyard last night. Claire, it was perfect. I meant it when I said congratulations. Whatever happened later, my joy for my little sister in that moment was completely real. Colton's last name I'll call Whitmore. His family owns a chain of upscale event venues and cabin rentals, old money that acts like new money, the kind of family that never waits for a table. My mom appeared behind Peyton, fussing over something on the counter, and said hi with a smile that looked ironed on. "Exciting news, right, honey?" "It really is," I said. "I'll start looking at flights." And that's when I noticed the first crack, so small I almost stepped right over it. "Oh, don't waste money on a plane ticket yet," my mom said quickly. "It's going to be small. Real intimate." "Mom, it's Peyton's wedding." "I'm coming." "We'll see," she said and slid out of frame like she had somewhere urgent to be. I want you to hold on to that moment because everything that happened later, the door, the humiliation, the $38,000, traces right back to those two words. We'll see. If you've ever had a family member say something small like that and only realized months later it was actually a warning shot, drop a same in the comments. You are far from alone. 2 weeks later, my mom called, using that tone she gets when she's been rehearsing something since sunrise. "I need to ask you something practical. The venue needs a card on file. Your dad's credit isn't great since the truck loan, and Peyton hasn't built up any history yet." I already knew where this was going. "How much, Mom?" "Altogether around $41,800. You'd only put down a deposit right now, $3,800 or so. The rest gets billed after the wedding. $41,800 under my name for an event I hadn't even been formally invited to yet." I hesitated maybe 4 seconds. Then old habits took over. 23, I'd co-signed a truck loan for my dad that took years to untangle from my credit. At 29, I'd wired my mom $3,600 for a roof emergency that turned out to be Peyton's tuition. I told myself this was different. This was my sister's wedding, and I was the responsible one. "Fine," I said. "Send me the paperwork." I signed 4 vendor contracts that week, the venue, which I'll call Silver Pines Ranch, plus the caterer, florist, and photographer. Every line had my name, my signature, my card number. I told myself this was just what family does for each other. I had no idea I'd just signed the receipt for my own humiliation. Over the next 4 months, I watched my sister's wedding come together entirely from the outside, like pressing my face against a window I'd paid to install. Peyton started a group chat called Whitmore Wedding Crew. I wasn't added. I only found out it existed when she accidentally forwarded me a photo meant for the group. Bridesmaids in matching robes, captioned "Vote Ladies." I wasn't one of the ladies, even though I was the one covering the bill. I called to ask about the dress code. She said she'd get back to me. I called again about giving a toast. That one went to voicemail, followed by a text an hour later. So busy with planning our and talk soon. I called my mom to ask if there was anything at all I could help with. Everything's handled, honey. You don't need to worry your head about it. I never got an invitation. Not printed, not digital, not even a text with a date. I told myself that was normal. You don't formally invite your own sister. She's family. Family doesn't need an invitation. Something in your chest just tightened up reading that. Hit that like button. Genuinely helps this story find people who need to hear it, and trust me, it gets a lot heavier from here. 2 weeks before the wedding, I saw a photo on Instagram. A rehearsal dinner at a steakhouse downtown, Peyton in a white sundress surrounded by bridesmaids, my mom glowing beside her. Caption: my whole family, my whole world. I counted the faces 11 times. I wasn't in a single one. I hadn't even known there was a rehearsal dinner. I told myself maybe I was overthinking it, a lie I've told myself my whole adult life. I set my alarm. I had a flight to catch. I used 5 of my 20 vacation days on this trip. Flights, hotel, and a wrapped stand mixer for the bride ran me almost $1,700 on top of the deposit, on top of the $38,000 still hanging over my card like a boulder. Somewhere on that first flight, I opened the Notes app and reread the toast I'd been quietly writing for weeks. A story about how Peyton used to make me play wedding with her stuffed animals when she was 5, always casting me as the officiant, never the bride. I practiced it twice under my breath. When I landed for my layover, I texted my mom, "Landed! One more flight, can't wait to see everyone." 40 minutes of silence. Then, right before boarding, my connection, "Okay. Busy. See you tomorrow." 5 words. No exclamation point. No safe travels. Nothing. I almost screenshotted it to my best friend Marcus back in Denver with the caption, "Is this weird or am I losing it?" I didn't. I just put my phone away and told myself everything would be fine once I got there. 10 hours of travel. 5 words in return. If that math feels familiar, say so in the comments. You're not the only one who's ever done that math somewhere over a layover. I checked into the Bluegrass a little after 9:30. The front desk clerk smiled and asked if I was in town for the big Whitmore wedding. Apparently the whole town knew about it. My room was small but clean. I hung my dress in the closet, set the wrapped stand mixer on the desk, and called Peyton. Straight to voicemail. I texted my mom, "Checked in. What time should I head over tomorrow?" An hour later, all she sent back was, "Ceremonies at 2. Not come early. Not let's grab breakfast. Just a time like I was a vendor confirming a delivery window." I sat on the edge of that bed and did some math I'd been avoiding for years. 6 years of wiring money home for every crisis. Every birthday my mom forgot, the graduation photos on her mantle with 3 of Peyton and 0 of me. I told myself one more time, maybe tomorrow would be different. I should have listened to the part of me that already knew better. Here's where it gets good. Because what happened at that barn door the next afternoon is the exact moment this whole story flips from a sad family drama into something else entirely. If you've made it this far, drop the word door in the comments, because in about 2 minutes, you're going to understand exactly why. Saturday, 1:45 in the afternoon. Silver Pines Ranch sat on rolling pasture just outside town, white fences, string lights, a gravel path lined with mason jars and wildflowers. It looked like something off a wedding blog. I parked at the far end of the lot, smoothed my dress, picked up the gift, and started walking. I saw my dad first, near the doors in a rental suit that didn't sit right on his shoulders. When he spotted me, his face went from surprise to something like fear, then he looked down and walked inside without a word. I kept walking anyway. The double doors opened and my mom stepped out. Champagne-colored dress, hair done, jaw set like poured concrete. She planted herself directly in my path. "Claire!" Her voice was low and controlled. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here for Peyton's wedding, Mom. I made it. You need to leave. Now." I actually laughed because for half a second I thought she was joking. "I flew 10 hours to get here." "Lower your voice. People are watching." "Mom, I'm your daughter." She stepped in closer, close enough that I caught the same perfume she'd worn my whole childhood, and whispered something I still hear sometimes, months later, late at night. "Only family is allowed inside. You weren't invited." I stood there holding a stand mixer like it was suddenly the heaviest thing on earth. "I paid every deposit for this wedding," I said. "I signed every contract. This isn't about money. This is about what's appropriate." That's when a new voice cut through the tension, warm, confident, definitely not from Millbrook Hollow. "Renata? Everything all right out here?" This is where I have to introduce someone I haven't mentioned yet, because she's the reason any of this ever came out into the light. Her name, I'll call her Adele. Colton's mom. Tall, silver-haired, the kind of woman who chairs the hospital gala and still finds time to arrange her own centerpieces. She stepped through the doors in lavender silk and looked at me like she was trying to place my face. "Oh, it's nothing, Adele," my mom said, snapping into a honey-sweet tone I knew all too well. "Just a distant cousin who got the venue mixed up." "A cousin?" Adele tilted her head. "I could have sworn Renata only had the one daughter." 2 seconds of silence. Felt like 20. "I do," my mom said, laughing a bright, brittle laugh. "This is my cousin's girl. She's a little confused about the schedule." Adele looked at me one more time, really looked, then touched my mom's arm, said the ceremony would start soon, and went back inside. The doors swung shut. My mom and I stood there, staring at each other. In her eyes, there was no guilt, no shame. Just fear, the raw, cornered kind that shows up right before a lie is about to swallow the person telling it. "A cousin," I repeated. "Claire, please, you don't understand." "How long?" I said. "Have you been telling people I don't exist?" She didn't answer. She just glanced toward the parking lot, willing me to disappear. And that's when it hit me. She hadn't forgotten to invite me. She had erased me. On purpose. For who knows how long. Quick question before I keep going. If your own mom called you a cousin to your face, would you have walked away quietly or made a scene? Drop your answer below. What I did next surprised even me. I crouched down and set the gift box on the stone step like it still mattered even now. "Keep it," I said. "It's for Peyton." My mom's shoulders dropped half an inch, relief, I think, that this might be over that easily. "Thank you, Claire. This is really for the—" "Don't," I said, holding up one hand. "Don't explain. Don't justify anything. I heard every word you just said." I turned and walked back down that gravel path, past the mason jars, past a couple still arriving, laughing about the heat, past my rental car, and got in. I closed the door and finally, alone in that parking lot, I let myself cry, the quiet kind where your shoulders shake but your mouth stays shut because even alone you've spent your whole life being trained not to make a scene. Through the open windows, I heard a string quartet start playing. The ceremony was beginning without me. I pulled out of that lot. In my rearview mirror, Silver Pines Ranch shrank down to a little speck of golden light. I didn't slam a single door. I didn't raise my voice once. I just left. And for the first time I can remember, leaving felt like the strongest thing I had ever done. Back at the Bluegrass Inn, mascara smudged, hands still shaking, I opened my laptop and read every vendor email I'd skimmed over the past few weeks without really absorbing. My name on every line. My signature. My card number. Deposit already paid, $3,800 gone for good. Balance still outstanding across all 4 vendors, just over $38,000 due within 5 business days. I sat completely still while, somewhere across town, the reception was probably just getting started. Toasts, my mom hugging my sister, the Whitmores clinking glasses with their new in-laws, all of it happening under contracts signed by a woman they just introduced to a stranger as a distant cousin. I didn't make a single call that night. I just let the number repeat itself in my head. $38,000. My name. Their party. My phone rang at almost 10 that night. Aunt Dot, my mom's older sister, a retired school principal, the kind of woman other people call difficult because they're too polite to call her honest. Claire, where were you? I didn't see you at the wedding. I told her everything, the blocked door, the whisper, the word cousin, Adele's question, my mom's answer. A long silence. I could hear her breathing shift, slow and deliberate, the way she does right before deciding exactly how angry she's going to let herself get. She told them you don't exist, Aunt Dot said, flat as a table. Lord have mercy. Claire, those vendor contracts. Whose name is on them? Mine. All of them. Her voice changed. Still furious but sharper now. More strategic. Then you listen to me, sweetheart. Your mom stood at that door and told a total stranger you don't exist. You don't owe that party one more penny. Not one. Sunday morning, I woke up to a notification. Peyton had posted a photo carousel, the ceremony, the family portrait, my dad, my mom, Peyton, Colton, and Colton's parents. 6 people. 2 families joined. 1 daughter missing. Caption, surrounded by everyone who matters. #Whitmore forever. I read it 3 times. Then I opened my email and there they were, every invoice timestamped from the night before, all with 5-day deadlines. $38,000 due that Thursday. Something shifted in me right then. Not a scream, not a slammed laptop. Something quieter, like a lock that's been stuck for years finally turning. I wasn't angry yet. That would come later in waves. In that hotel room, all I felt was clarity. I had paid for a wedding I wasn't invited to. I was the only adult in my family not in a single photo. And I was the only person being sent a bill for a party I'd been physically turned away from. Something had to give. And for once in my life, it wasn't going to be me. That afternoon, a voicemail came in from Peyton. Not a call, a voicemail like checking off a chore. Hey, Claire. So the wedding was seriously amazing, the venue looked incredible, Colton's family was so sweet. Anyway, sorry things got kind of weird yesterday. Mom said it was for the best, and honestly, I think she's right. But thanks so much for helping with the vendor stuff, seriously, you're the best big sister. Let's catch up soon, okay? Love you. I listened to it twice. Sorry things got kind of weird. Not, I'm sorry Mom turned you away. Not, I should have fought for you. Not, I had no idea I would have stopped it. Mom said it was for the best. She knew. She knew before the ceremony even started, and let it happen anyway. That line at the end, you're the best big sister, used to make me feel like everything I gave meant something. Sitting in that hotel room, I finally heard it for what it really was. She only ever called me that when she needed something from me. I didn't call her back. That Sunday night, I searched something I never thought I'd need to look up. Am I legally responsible for a contract signed on someone else's behalf? The answer was the same everywhere. Whoever's name is on the contract holds both the obligation and the authority. I could authorize the final payments, or decline and redirect the balance to whoever actually threw the party. I called the venue first. I'm the contract holder for the Whitmore wedding, I told the woman who answered. I won't be authorizing the final payment. I wasn't present, and I'm formally requesting the balance be redirected to the hosts. Oh, okay. Is there some kind of dispute? No dispute. I'm simply not authorizing the charge. Same script for the caterer, the florist, the photographer. For calls, maybe 12 minutes total. I didn't raise my voice once. I just said one word calmly over and over. No. I brushed my teeth and slept through the night for the first time in 3 days. Monday morning, before the sun was up, I changed my flight and checked out early. On the drive to the airport, I passed through Millbrook Hollow one last time. The diner, the church I was baptized in, the house I grew up in, porch light still on. My name not mentioned once, I was sure, on the other side of that door. I turned onto the highway and didn't look back. By the time I landed in Denver, it was raining, gray sky, cold drizzle, honestly the most beautiful weather I think I'd ever seen. No missed calls. No texts. Nobody back home had even noticed I was gone. They would notice soon enough. If you think that was the end of it, trust me, it's just getting started. What happens next involves a wedding photographer nobody expected to talk, a groom who had no idea his new wife even had a sister, and a phone call from my aunt that lit a match under the entire town. Smash that subscribe button now because you do not want to miss where this goes. Tuesday afternoon, my mom called. I let it ring 3 times before I answered. "Claire, hi honey," she said, sugar sweet. "I just got the strangest call from the venue. They said you pulled your payment authorization. The bill's at $38,000. How do we want to handle this?" "We don't handle it, Mom. You handle it." "Excuse me. I pulled my authorization because I'm not responsible for an event I wasn't invited to." "Don't be dramatic. This was just a misunderstanding. We can talk about it." "You told Adele I was a distant cousin. You told her you only have one daughter. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a choice." Silence. Then her voice hardened. "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me? You raised me. I'm grateful for that. But you also stood in front of your own daughter and told a stranger she doesn't exist. Both things can be true, Mom. You're blowing this way out of proportion. $38,000. That's the proportion." She hung up. No goodbye. Just silence. She called back 40 minutes later, all the sweetness gone. "Do you have any idea what you've done? The venue's calling me. Caterer's calling me. I've got invoices with your name crossed out and mine written in. Do you know how humiliating that is? About as humiliating as being introduced as a cousin at my own sister's wedding." "That is not the same thing." "You're right. Mine cost $38,000. Then came the line I'd been braced for since I was a teenager, the one she always kept loaded for exactly this kind of moment. "Your dad's blood pressure has been through the roof over this. If something happens to him, that's on you. Dad's health is between him and his doctor," I said. "Not me and my credit card." She hung up again. I put the kettle on and made myself a cup of tea. By Wednesday, the family phone tree was in full swing. Peyton called first, crying the theatrical way she's perfected since she was a kid. "Claire, please, Colton and I just got married. We don't have $38,000. If you don't pay it, we have to." "Peyton, did you know Mom told the Whitmores I don't exist?" A sniffle. "She said it'd be easier with them. They're kind of old school, and it wasn't personal, Claire. It was just simpler. You knew. Before the wedding. And you let it happen. Can we please just focus on the bill? Maybe it's time someone gave you an honest answer instead." I hung up. My dad called that afternoon, which almost never happens. Hearing his voice felt strange, like picking up a tool you forgot you even owned. "Your mom's very upset," he said. "Did you know she told people I'm not your daughter?" A long exhale. "That's not exactly what happened. Were you standing right there when she called me a distant cousin to my face?" "Nothing." Then quietly a click. Every single one of them hung up the second the questions got real. A family that would rather sit in silence than sit in the truth. Here's the part one didn't see coming. The wedding photographer, I'll call her Simone, had been shooting arrivals that afternoon and caught the entire exchange between me and my mom on a long lens. She hadn't thought much of it until Adele mentioned offhand that the cousin story felt strange. A few days later, Simone quietly forwarded those photos to Adele. Not to stir anything up, she told my aunt, but because something about it just didn't sit right. Photos of me at that door, holding a gift box next to a woman clearly blocking my path. A stranger with a camera did the one thing nobody in my own family was willing to do: tell the truth without being asked. If a stranger has ever shown you more honesty than your own blood, comment stranger below. Aunt Dot didn't wait for permission from anybody. She never has. Thursday morning, the same day all 4 invoices were due, she called Adele directly using the number off the wedding program in her purse. Adele, this is Renata has 2 daughters, not one. Claire is 33, lives in Denver, and signed every vendor contract for that wedding. Saturday, Renata stood at that door and told her to leave. The silence on Adele's end lasted a full 10 seconds. I beg your pardon, Adele finally said. The woman she introduced as a cousin, that was her own daughter. She flew 10 hours and paid every deposit herself. Your family's already seen the photos if Simone sent them over. Adele's voice went cold in that particular way composed. Wealthy women get cold, quiet, final, absolutely certain. Why would Renata do something like that? You'd have to ask her yourself. But that girl signed every check and still didn't make a single scene at that door. That's more grace than my sister deserves. The fuse was already lit. And a town that small does not sit on good gossip for long. Thursday afternoon, at my desk in Denver with a fresh cup of coffee, I closed every account tied to that wedding. I sent identical emails to all 4 vendors, formally revoking my authorization and redirecting every outstanding invoice to my parents' address. All 4 confirmed within the hour. Julie from the venue even wrote back, understood, we've updated our records, no follow-up questions, which told me she probably already knew what had happened. I called my bank, canceled the card linked to those contracts, and ordered a new one. $38,000 in remaining charges would now route directly to the people who'd actually thrown that party. My deposit, $3,800, already non-refundable, was gone for good. Combined with travel costs, I was out just over $5,500 total. Price of finally learning that no amount of signing, paying, or showing up quietly was ever going to earn me an actual seat at that table. Honestly, it was a bargain. Friday morning, I sent one final email to my mom, my dad, and my sister. I have formally removed my payment authorization from every vendor contract connected to Peyton's wedding. The remaining balance is now the responsibility of the event hosts. I wish Peyton and Colton a wonderful marriage. Please don't contact me about financial matters. If any of you want a relationship with me going forward, it starts with honesty, not invoices. I read it 4 times, checked for anything petty or cruel. There wasn't any. Just a boundary, clean as a line on a map. I hit send, made tea, and stood by my window looking out at a little courtyard that isn't much, but it's mine. I didn't write that email to hurt anyone. I wrote it so I could finally stop hurting myself. Aunt Dot kept me updated, and she tried not to sound like she was enjoying it, but she's a terrible liar. Adele called my mom that same afternoon, and according to a mutual friend sitting right there, it did not go well. You lied to us, Adele reportedly said. You told us you had 1 daughter. That trust is gone. My mom tried estranged. Adele's answer relayed word for word. Estranged people don't sign $41,000 in contracts. That's exploited. The Whitmores refused to cover a cent. Colton had no idea I existed until that week and confronted Peyton about it directly. Their first real fight, 4 days into the marriage, over a sister he didn't know existed and a bill neither of them could afford. They eventually took out a personal loan, with the Whitmores co-signing only to protect their own family name. Word got around fast, through the church, the diner, the salon. The details shifted with every retelling, but the core stayed the same. Renata hid her own daughter, turned her away at the door, then sent her the bill for it. My mom switched churches. My dad got quieter than usual, which, if you knew him, is saying something. 2 weeks later, I got a long text from Peyton. No apology for the door, just a request for help with the loan. I read it 3 times looking for one sentence that said, "What happened to you was wrong." It wasn't there. I told her, gently but clearly, I couldn't help financially, and the boundary was never about the money. A month after that, I got an email from my dad, the first one longer than a birthday card in my entire life. Claire. I should have said something that day. I stood there like a fence post while your mom handled it, and I didn't open my mouth. I don't have a good reason. I was a coward. I'm sorry. I should have walked you inside myself. It wasn't perfect. Didn't fix anything. But it was the first honest thing anyone in my family had said to me in years, and I read it more times than I'll ever admit. It's been about 7 months since that Saturday at Silver Pines Ranch. I got promoted at work not long after. My boss cited grace under pressure in my review. She had no idea. I started therapy not because of the wedding but because of the 33 years before it, working through what my therapist calls over-responsibility, the belief that if I just give enough, sacrifice enough, the people I love will finally truly see me. My mom has not called, texted, or emailed me since. Aunta tells me she calls the whole thing Claire's little tantrum. I don't hate her, but I've stopped pretending her version of love didn't hurt because it did, and pretending otherwise was slowly wearing me down, one signed contract at a time. I'm not telling you this so you'll hate her. She's flawed and scared, and spent years building an image of a perfect family because the real one never felt like enough. Somewhere along the way, I became the piece that didn't fit the frame. That's not an excuse. It's just what happened. But maybe you're living some version of this story too. Flying across the country, literally or emotionally, for people who won't hold the door open for you. Signing the contracts, covering the bills, swallowing the silence, and calling it love because you don't know what else to call it. A boundary isn't revenge. It's the moment you say, I'm worth more than this, and then actually act like it. $38,000, that's what my peace cost me. I've never once regretted a penny I didn't pay. If you're the one who always pays for a seat at a table that was never built for you, maybe it's time you built your own table and sat at the head of it. All right, family, that's the story. Now I want to hear from you. Would you have paid the $38,000, or would you have drawn the line like I did? Drop pay or boundary in the comments, and while you're at it, tell me your city and what time it is where you're watching this from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. If this one hit close to home, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. We post real stories about toxic family dynamics, boundaries, and quiet revenge every single week right here on Silent Revenge. I'll see you in the next one.